Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire. And when I'm not interviewing inspiring entrepreneurs, I'm listening to Stephanie O'Brien on the Moved by Purpose podcast.
It takes a little extra effort, but because no one else is doing it, you get the whole enchilada of not only working smarter, but you're working harder. And because nobody's doing both of those, you're going to succeed at an accelerated rate just by those two little simple aspects.
Are you longing to know what your purpose is? Are you on the wrong career path? Do you feel like there must be more to life? Don't worry, there's hope. It's time to be moved by purpose. Now your host, Stephanie O'Brien.
Welcome to the show, Alan. I am so excited to have you on the show today.
Stephanie, thank you. I've been looking forward to talking to you for quite some time now, so thanks for having me.
Yes, it's an honor to finally chat. So we were talking a little bit before the official, start of the recording, and you were sharing that you have had a business for about 20 years. So you've been in business for a while. So could you share with us a little background of your work history?
Sure. Actually, it's been more than 30 years now. I started right out of college, really, and began working for someone else and found out that was not necessarily my niche in life. I'm in the marketing and video audio production field, and that led to the traditional lines of going to work at a radio station or a television station, and I had success at that, but the confines of do it my way and this is the way we've always done it never set well with me. And so early on into it, we created an advertising agency and marketing company and enjoyed some great success. And that has evolved over the years. It's still at the heart of everything that we do. I do have the basic background of trying to educate and teach as I move along with clients. And that has translated now into a coaching career for people who want to start a business. The marketing side of things, of course, is strictly business, making sure that people understand what you're doing and what it is that you're about. So that has evolved over time as well as the industry has evolved. And you and I were talking that technology has made it easier for people with their laptop computers or even their smartphones or tablets to be able to produce content in a mobile world and deliver it online. So we're all, our own radio station, our own television station, our own publishing corporation. So we can be a newspaper, a magazine, an editorial staff, whatever we want, just a click of a few buttons. So that's meant that we've had to reinvent ourselves along to keep up with technology and to adapt or to go the way of the dinosaur. And so it's been fun and it's been challenging. And that's why I think that moving to full-time coaching here in the next few months is definitely going to be the way I want to go.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I love that you have such a rich history in business. And so you've been around and you've seen how technology has really changed businesses. And to the person that's listening, because I've had a couple conversations where people have that dream of starting a business or they want to start one, but then they've also had that one friend whose parents lost their business, or they see their friends struggling to keep a business alive because of these changes. But you've been able to evolve and change with these changes. So these people have that fear that they're allowing to hold them back from getting out there and pursuing it because they're afraid they won't be able to keep up with the changes. And as soon as they learn and master one skill, they'll have to master another one because by the time they learn it, it's outdated. So do you have maybe some encouragement to that person that is afraid with maybe how to keep up with the changes and what the best thing to do to handle all of the kind of evolving things?
Sure. To describe me is to say that I am a serial entrepreneur and an action evangelist, which just simply means I love working with business people and starting my own businesses. And really, I've had one umbrella company that has continued that evolutionary process for over 30 years. And then I'm a strong believer in action. Most of the times when businesses get into trouble, they get into what I refer to as a rut. What they need to be, which is usually what they were working on when they first began that business, is a groove. Now, they're very similar terms, but man, they have completely different meanings and ways to extend themselves into our lives. Stress is a reality. And let me just tell you, if you own your own business, you will be the hardest working person of anybody you know. but you love what you do, or you should love what you do. If you don't, that's one of the ways that you'll become extinct as well. But that modification side, that enhancement side, is really becomes an important aspect of our everyday lives. As we say, technology has changed so fast and so quickly. We used to measure things in dog years, saying that 7 years in a human's life is very similar to 1 year in a dog's. Well, that's also kind of an internet time as well. In internet years, it's even faster. Something that is 2 years old is kind of outdated. Most of your listeners, if they just think about it, how long has the iPhone and the smartphones been around? Actually, it's just been a few years, but we can't really think of a time when we didn't have one of those. And at my age, I've seen a lot of ridiculous contraptions come across this technology that, thank goodness, they evolved, because packing around a 40-pound cell phone is not exactly something that you wanted to do. Same way with portable computers versus laptop computers. Once again, those things probably weighed in the 40 or 50-pound range. You carried them around like your grandmother's old sewing machine type case, and the screen was probably about the size of a smartphone right now, but it wasn't in color. So a lot of evolutionary things have happened. Don't be afraid to look for those enhancements, to look for that evolution. If you stay to the edge of that curve, it's not so hard. But if you hunker down and you resist and you resist and you resist, you're going to come up with a lot of scars. Now, I happen to think scars are pretty when it comes to experience. I don't trust people who have all the answers but really haven't done anything. And theory and concept is great, but most plans fail when you encounter the enemy. The first bit of resistance, then we back off, we throw up our hands, and we give up. I'm also a very big proponent in starting part-time with things. I really want to see people have some income assurance in today's society. Even if you like a traditional employment model and what we call a JOB a lot of times, it's great to have a side business, if at all possible, if your company that you work for doesn't disallow that, then to increase your income. It can supplement what you're doing so that you can grow your retirement and have money for vacations and things like that. But it also gives you another perspective. You're a better employee if you understand how running a business is more than just me, and how it affects my department, that a business is an overall entity. If that works well, then yes, by all means, I encourage people to move that into a full-time situation. But most of the time, a big problem occurs because people get what I refer to as the forever and ever amen phrase. They get panicked. Well, what if I make the wrong choice? I'm good at so many things. And yes, you are. That doesn't mean you should do them all at one time, but you can explore them one at a time or a few at a time to see that what's your good fit. And as well, you need to be a little prepared to make those subtle adjustments over time. I mean, what would we do without the cloud now? We would have rooms and rooms and rooms of filing cabinets, So it's an evolutionary process, and be a part of it or be left behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great advice. And I, too, I'm a person of action. And so just getting in, trying new things, and being really determined to learn everything you can, but also there's a nice fine line and balance of there's perseverance and persistence and being diligent, but then there's also that wisdom that comes, and I guess as you're in it more, you learn when you do need to let go and when it is time to quit, not necessarily giving up, but when something you're trying is no longer working for you, and letting that go and moving on. Because one of the patterns I noticed with some successful people is that they quit often but never give up. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I've learned that myself too. And I'm finally just at this stage, and I still have a baby business. I've only been doing this for about 14 months. So I'm still learning. I had no background in marketing, no background in business at all. And I started this business without having a clue what I was doing. And I just go, and I love it. I love every minute of it. Sometimes I have my moments of frustration and things are harder, and the resistance absolutely does come. But just the personal development and the character development in the process of starting a business is incredible in and of itself. And when I started my business, I was working around my day job. And when I put my resignation in, my supervisor was sharing with me how she noticed that in the last 7 months that I was working there, which was right around the time I started, she was like, I noticed that you just, I don't know, like your whole attitude changed in a positive way. You just started being more efficient and just started being more of a team player and just willing to step up and take extra responsibility or whatever. And I think it just carried over. It just spilled into my day job, everything I was learning from building a business. So it does go noticed.
Absolutely. Almost everything that we do, I focus with my particular company is 6 Month Jump. And with our jump experiences, we really focus on business, but all of that spills over in both directions. If you're working hard, if you're excited about what you're doing, that helps to improve your relationships. And most of the same ideas and techniques and systems that we encourage you to use in a business can work with relationships, they can work with your finances, they can work with your spiritual life. I mean, they just do, because it's a participation system for the most part. But it also comes back when you're having a hard time in your personal life, that will affect your business. And being able to recognize that, to collect that data and utilize it is very important. I was working with a gentleman yesterday who came to me and said he wanted a focus group and that he had some ideas and we wanted to test them before we got too long. Great, absolutely, it's the way it should be done. We refer to the split testing online and things like that your listeners have probably heard of. But we got done and submitted the ideas to the focus group. Well, they kind of picked on it. And he was defending it. Well, you don't understand, and you don't do this, and you don't do that. And finally, I pulled him aside and I said, what good is a focus group if you're not going to listen to it? If you're going to operate in a vacuum, don't bother these people. They have things to do as well. They have their lives to live as well. A lot of business people do that with their customers and their clients. They want to tell them what they need and make them follow particular systems, and that isn't going to work. That's what will close a business very quickly, is not being in a relationship with your customer as much as just trying to have a monologue, to stand up there and tell them what they need, and this is what you want, and they can decide if they like it or don't. It doesn't take them long to decide if your service is exactly like so many others, like banks, for instance. You probably can, from your house, you can probably find 15 banks within 5 minutes of your house. What separates them? Nothing, absolutely nothing. They all take savings accounts and checking accounts and maybe CDs and things like that, but they all sell the exact same product, a place to put money so that you can give it to somebody else and at some particular point. So it's their service that makes the difference. So they all have nice buildings. I mean, they don't look like they're operating out of the back of a truck or anything. So they all have nice buildings. They all wear nice clothes. But what separates them? And that's that relationship. You'll hang with a bank for quite some time as long as there's somebody friendly. And that weakest link is that cashier that you walk up to the window and say, if they don't ask you how you're doing today, if they just say, can I help you? Or in the South, as we like to say, can I help you? The process is almost over. So all of the little details, all of the caring that goes into it is a two-way street. It's that way between your personal life and your business life, and it's that way between yourself and your customer. And if a customer's having a bad day, and even though you're maybe in a hurry, take a few minutes, talk with them, work with them, and you'll understand more about your coworkers and more about your family and even the stranger on the street whenever you create those relationships and build them within your business.
Yeah. In all honesty, I think it wasn't until the last maybe 3 months, like I heard in all of the podcasts and all the books, like they're all saying the same core message, that relationships are key. They're vital to the health of your business, your relationships with your customers, relationships with your employees, if that's the direction you choose to go and the type of business you want. And I heard that over and over and over again. And I thought I got it, but I just recently finally got it, because in the beginning, I was so focused on all the details. Like, I need to get my website. I need to get this logo right. I need to learn copy and effective sales copy. And I need to learn social media, and I need to hire an assistant. Like all of this stuff and all these details. And I was putting all my focus on, and those things are important, and they do.
Absolutely.
And they do need to get done. I'm not saying that you can just disregard it, but I put too much focus on that, and then I wasn't really necessarily building effective relationships and nurturing quality relationships and networking and pouring into people. And So I did all of this work and got all of this stuff up, and nobody knew really who I was.
Sure. Sure.
They're like, okay, that's great. You have a lovely website, but I don't know who you are. So I finally reversed that and I prioritized relationships and pouring into people and networking and serving and authentically giving and things like that. And that's where I put 80% of my energy is into serving others and building relationships. And interestingly enough, I got a lot more clients.
Isn't it funny how it works that way? Yeah. You got something. Years ago, a fellow by the name of Regis McKenna made a statement, and he was a person who was just considered to be the absolute epitome of marketing and advertising. And his comment was, marketing is everything, and everything is marketing. You've now taken that to heart. Even if you didn't put it in those specific words, you understand that most people think of promoting their business and getting the word out in an advertising style. Advertising is simply your public face, the way you want people to think of you, the way that you start an opening or a conversation or something like that. Check me out. I'm a great person. You're not quite as fully honest with the advertising. Bad advertising. Oh, it's so bad. But it's embarrassing for the most part. And I've done things that at the time seemed like a great idea, and they worked, and then you look at them years later and you just hang your head and go, oh my gosh, it was kind of like polyester leisure suits of the 70s. It's like, whoever thought that was a good idea? The 70s was a very ugly era, and thank goodness that a lot of your listeners didn't have to live through that, but they know mom and dad, or maybe your grandparents did, so there you have it. But marketing is that relationship. It is, handling all of the details. Yes, it's the website, and it's the business cards, and it's the clothes that you wear for your bio photo, and all of those things. But it is more, the smile that you have in your photo is genuine. People realize that. If it's that fake smile, what I like to call the parade smile, you see the little quarter hand wave, like the Queen of England, where they just kind of flip the wrist side to side instead of, waving their hand up and down. It gets to be this stated thing. It's like prayers that, use very lofty words. Well, that's not a conversation with God. That's showing off to the people that are hearing you praying. People don't appreciate the insincerity. In this day of social media, you're found out quick. I mean, used to, a trailer to a movie was enough to get you in the theater. Anymore, a few Twitter posts or something on Facebook, and you just saved your $12 or $14 for going to the movie because it's a stinker. And I mean, they'll know about it first night. Opening night can kill a movie because you don't have to wait for a few days for the newspapers to come out and read the reviews. They are instant, and they're with your friends, people that you care about what they think, not some movie critic that kind of a hotty-totty, I'm better than you attitude most of the time anyway. So I used to love it if you could make the critics hate you. That you really were doing something different, and that's usually good.
We will be back after this quick commercial break.
Why do some businesses make 7 figures while others barely pay the rent? It's the MG word, Mastermind Group. With a Mastermind Group, you'll get feedback, input, idea sharing, and brainstorming by other business experts. You can't afford to spend $500 on postcards that don't make sales. You can't afford pay-per-click that doesn't deliver. Why learn from trial and error? Why not learn from others that have already been there? This group is for speakers, coaches, writers, and consultants that are hustling to make things happen. How much will this cost you? Just $249 a month. You'll get more support, coaching, and training of a top mastermind group for a fraction of the price. Think you can't afford it? Trust me, $249 is nothing compared to business mistakes that will cost you thousands. Learning from home study programs, books, and consuming free podcasts and blogs will only get you so far. Real success comes with a team of committed members. Don't delay. Apply today and save $50 per month bonus upon acceptance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all a process. What is a statement like? Something about if you make a customer happy, they might tell I don't know, like 5 people or something. But if you make them unhappy, they'll tell 1,000.
Yeah, they'll tell everybody they know what you did wrong. So, yeah.
And that is true. I definitely try to praise the businesses that are doing it right. And I guess because now I'm in business and I value customer service, I am so picky about who I give my business to that there's a lot of businesses, I don't know, because it's just the integrity seems to have gone out the door with a lot of these, just not really advertising honestly or just not really seeming to care anymore, especially the larger businesses.
Oh,
and it just is really disappointing. And I think because of these larger businesses that are in front of so many people, it puts a bad taste in the consumer's mouth. So their trust is ruined for many businesses. And so you have to work hard to earn that person's trust and to show them that you authentically care. Because we really just tolerate minimal customer service or standards. So it gives us a chance. But I love that. I love being able to actually pick up the phone if someone has a question. I will ask for their phone number and actually spend time on the phone. And some people are just shocked that I would take the time to do that.
It does surprise people anymore that we take social beyond just typing a few letters on a screen, that we actually pick up the phone and send somebody a card or something like that, or just write them a letter, just a handwritten note, and put a stamp on it. Your phone will ring when I got your note. Well, I meant for you to get the note. That's why I sent it to you. Yeah, but it was a note. It was, you took time. It's like you care about me or something. And it's like, I do. Stephanie, you're absolutely right. We lowered that standard. Our comfort zone has gotten so low a lot of times, and our standards have gotten so low of what we're willing to accept.
Yeah.
That makes it easier. You know, I hear a lot of people that quit and do things, and it is sad to me. I can usually explore what they've done and find, you know, here's a root cause of something that you were doing absolutely wrong, and that's why you got the result that you were doing, or you weren't doing it to the best for your situation. We're so politically correct anymore. Right and wrong have kind of gone out the windows, but I still use those terms, good and bad. I use those terms as well. But when we make that connection with someone, it makes a huge difference. And I'm sorry to say that older people are intimidated by technology, and they back off a lot of times. They will continue doing what they know. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't, is a way that we look at it a lot of times. A younger person, my kids, they embrace technology. It's just part of who they are. And I can remember stories of my grandfather getting his first phone, and he refused to talk on it. He said, if I want to talk to somebody, I'll get in the truck and I'll go over to him and I'll talk to him. I'm not going to use that contraption. And now we carry around that ability in our pocket. We can connect with someone around the world in a matter of seconds anymore. So that ability to connect with somebody has evolved so quickly that we're not necessarily good at it yet. Somebody does make you mad, you'll fire out something on Facebook or Twitter, and there is no undo button at that particular point. Once it's out there, once you've opened your mouth, you kind of let the public know, and that's a hard thing to do. So, and as you said earlier, do something nice, do something the right way, and they'll tell a few people, but hurt them, or in this day and time, you've got demanding customers as well. Mm-hmm. I want this and this and this, which is $1,000 worth of stuff, but I want it for $5. And if you can't give it to me, I'll go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually told people, like, well, I need a quote for such and such and such and such, and I'll give it to them, and they'll say, well, so-and-so down the street will do it for this amount. I say, oh, really? Oh, okay. Let me look at this. And I said, you know, you're right. I did kind of misfigure this a little bit, and I'll double it. And they'll go, but you went up. And I went, yeah. And I said, on this right here, and I made it go up again. I've literally had people to say, well, obviously you care about what you're doing, and they'll hire me. Because I went up in my price when they were coming to beat me down. And I guess they're just not used to that reaction. They're used to us caving in and saying I'm worthless and what it is. But people will respect you for standing up what you believe in. And you've got to do that. You know, the old saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Our society has allowed that to happen in a lot of different ways, in our politics, in our schools, in our religions, different things like that. They've dumbed us down to a certain extent because we just don't have confidence in them anymore. So raise that bar every particular chance you get. I know you do, and I want to make sure that your podcast listeners do as well. It takes a little extra effort, but because no one else is doing it, you get the whole enchilada of not only working smarter, but you're working harder. And because nobody's doing both of those, you're going to succeed at an accelerated rate just by those two little simple aspects.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's just go that extra mile. Like, just take that time to write that note. And the card, you're absolutely right. It's so funny because I try to send a thank you card to, and it is hard to keep up with. I don't do the turnaround in the fastest, but the point is I send them out.
Sure.
And to almost anyone that I've had a conversation with, or that's helped me in my business in some way, or that sat down with me, or that I interviewed on my podcast, or whatever. And there are some people that have very large platforms that I've had on my show. And it's really funny how they will send me an email and they'll be like, I just got your card. Thank you so much. That was really sweet of you. And I'm thinking, don't these guys get a ton of cards in the mail? They have so many people in their audience.
They do not. They honestly do not. It's amazing how we have lost touch with who are your neighbors in your neighborhood. Most people don't know. A lot of people don't know their next door neighbor. So expanding your reach, that's one of the things that you have a younger audience than I typically work with. And that is so important to not make some of the same mistakes that we have done as your elders here, to lose sight of what's really important to you. It's not about me, is what you've got to keep telling yourself. For you to have a great life, you have to have somebody else have a great life. And as I said, it's a two-way street. If you want to know about something, teach it, because you'll dig in deeper than you ever will than just trying to learn it yourself. You mentioned earlier that you like to learn things, and you do have a lot of skills, and that's hard to kind of come up with your purpose or your passion or whatever term that we're using to define it right now. Your calling is another one that's out there, because we are good at so many things, or we think we're good at so many things. And narrowing that down seems like it's limiting us. But it's not. It's becoming an expert. I mean, do you want, let's just say that you've got a head injury. You were out and you were walking and chewing gum and at the same time, and you tripped and you fell and you bumped your head. Okay, now I need a doctor. Well, did I go in for the cheapest doctor, or do I go in with somebody an expert that can make sure that I'm back on my feet and little or no, long-term results of my injury or something like that? Do I sit back and say, well, let me see your card there, doc. Oh, so you're a neurosurgeon and pool cleaner. Wow, this is great. I'm glad that you can do all those things. And then they continue to tell you that they also, wash cars and that they design websites and all this other stuff. You're going to select that person as your brain surgeon? I don't think so. I think you're going to sit back and say, I'll check back with you. I'm feeling pretty good right now. And you're going to go to the next person. And so we're really hurting ourselves when we don't limit some of our focus. The biggest myth out there that young people tell themselves is, I can multitask.
Yeah.
Yes,
I've been guilty of that.
Yes, you can, and no, you shouldn't. Okay.
Yeah.
My daughter loves to do that. She's 9, and she thinks she's the queen of multitasking right now. The other day, though, she was doing something and she tripped, and she bumped her knee on a table, and she turned around and looked at me like I had done it. And then I see this look of disgust, and I'm like, okay, what's going to come out of her mouth now? And she's like, aren't you going to tell me you were right? And I said, about? And she goes, to just focus on one thing at a time. And I'm like, honey, you learned that lesson better than I could ever teach you. I planted the seed and you harvested the crop just now. What are you going to do with it? So she calmed down a little bit on it, but it was funny to watch even that young of a person to grasp some of these concepts that I tell over and over and over and over again. They go, yeah, but. Well, when you throw your butt in there, it kind of stinks up the whole conversation. So there's only so many things that we can do well at one time, and make it important enough to give it your focus.
Yeah. In the beginning, when you're first starting a business or trying to hone in and learn what passion to pursue, or you have an idea, but you're a multi-passionate person, and how do you make them all fit, or how do you narrow it down and select just one? And this took me a while to get clear on. Even when I was starting in my business, I still had so many directions I wanted to go. And there's a lot of people that will tell you, oh, you should do this, you should do this, you should do that. And it can get a little loud and confusing because you're already trying to figure it out yourself. As soon as I put a stake in the ground and I finally was like, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, this is what I'm doing. And it just again, it was like in addition to the serving and the relationships, but then getting that clarity and putting that stake in the ground and said, this is what I am focusing on. And this is it. It just seemed like people could explain what I did much more clearly, or people understood exactly what I did. I could clearly explain what I was doing and what I could do because I wasn't all over the place. So I definitely agree, the power of focus. And does it feel sometimes that you're missing out or that you're not as productive? Sometimes, because we get so accustomed to multitasking, we have disillusioned ourselves into believing that we are productive. But man, when I sit down and I have one project or one primary goal or one thing I'm focusing on, I deliver a quality product or project or whatever. And yeah, there's a bunch of 1,000 other things that are calling me and trying to grab my attention, but I just say no to it. And I actually complete something. Before I was like turning my attention to all these other things and I was busy and I was tired and I got nothing done. So now it feels good to have that discipline to focus on one thing and complete it. And that actually gives you the momentum to keep going to do the next thing. And it actually energizes you. And you realize it's okay to say no to all these other things.
Oh, absolutely. And you hit a key word there, Stephanie, and it's one that I pick up on. It's like with 6 Month Jump, I noticed how many times the word jump is used and that sort of stuff. It's where we're focused on type thing. As well, I'm writing a book and moving along quite nicely. Like most authors, it's becoming a major project instead of I should just do this. But it's called Busy is the New Stupid.
Yeah,
and
that's a great title.
And our lives are so busy doing stuff we probably shouldn't be doing. And so busyness becomes activity. It doesn't become action. And the action is focused and thoughtful and intentional. Busyness is just running around saying, whew, I am so tired. I've been so busy today. Well, what'd you accomplish? Not a darn thing. But I've been busy. Right. I've been real busy, you know. I think Dave Ramsey, a lot of your audience will know Dave Ramsey. He has a thing in his monologue that he talks about, and he says he gets in the car with his wife, and they're going somewhere, and they're looking for the map, and he goes, they finally find it, and they unfold it, and they look, this ought to tell you something when you unfold a map. Older story, obviously. But he says, and she goes, well, you're going the wrong way. He goes, yeah, but I'm making good time. You know. Same kind of thing. We can just take off in a direction that isn't necessarily good for us. Unless we turn it around, we're not going to get where we're going. We'll wind up somewhere. And if you're not focused, if you don't know what your passion is, if you don't know what it is that you're going to set out to do, then any direction is fine. It's just sitting there. Teddy Roosevelt one time made the comment that in any given moment, the best thing you can do is the right thing. Mm-hmm. But also at that same time, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will kind of hide from themselves, hide from their fears to a little bit, and just say, well, I'll just deal with that later. And so they then fill up their lives with worthless activities. Taking care of kids, getting them to soccer practice and to volleyball games and to this particular extracurricular activity and all these other things will fill up your day. My children have a much fuller social calendar than I ever did. Even to this day, they have a more fuller social calendar than I do. And I could spend all my time just delivering them here and getting their friends picked up and having somebody over. I mean, our house has usually got an extra kid or two around the place because we're a little more stable. And so people love coming over. And we establish our rules kind of early on so they got their boundaries and they're comfortable with them. So they know how to come and have a good time and stay out of trouble. Mm-hmm. Other places, people want a structure to their lives. They want leadership. And the biggest deal, looking at leadership, let's just look at our presidents over the last several years. They have led from all different kinds of styles. You know, some of them have worked out of charisma. Some of them have worked just from a personal agenda, and they wind up bullying everybody else around them till they get what they want. Others work through polling. Well, whichever way the wind is blowing, that's what I'm for. And that's not true leadership. That is, you know, a style of management that says, you know, I'm trying to make as many people happy at the same time as I can. But leaders have to make the tough decisions. They have to put the weight on their shoulders and they have to move forward. And if they get it right, well, they should get the praise. And if they get it wrong, they should admit that they got it wrong and work to move on. But we don't have quite the responsibility for the world like the President of the United States does. So the weight's not so large, but it's just as important that we accept the responsibility of what our lives are going to be like, or what our jobs are going to be, and the people that we're going to serve, because that service ultimately depends on how people remember you. They may not remember your name. I mean, my name's Alan Jackson, and there's a lot of jokes about that, with the country singer and everything. But anymore, I'm actually gaining more notoriety than he is. And so there are plenty of people that says, I never heard of him. And I'm like, yes, I've hung in there. I've managed. And a lot of times that's what the difference between success and failure is. Hanging in there long enough that you're one of the last people standing makes you a success.
Mm-hmm.
And,
absolutely.
I mentioned one of the myths a while ago, one of the big misunderstandings. Another one is that you have to be an expert to start your own business. That is absolutely not true. Yes, you have to have a very strong interest in it. You have to have some skill level that helps support that. But like I mentioned earlier, if you really want to know something, start to teach it to somebody else. You'll dig deeper. You'll start to understand it at a level that didn't make sense to you. You have learned things doing this podcast and running your own business that you would not have learned any other way. You could have read 1,000 books. All you would have done is hoarded that information into your knowledge category. But if you never took action on it, it's absolutely worthless. Mm-hmm. It's burying your treasure but not having a map. And that's where planning and goals and everything like that. And I'm a firm believer in writing them down with pen and paper. And people go, oh, my gosh, how much of an antique are you? I'm sorry. That's one of those things.
But I can't have my goals on my iPhone?
You can, but write them down on a piece of paper first. Yes. Same way with your mission statement and all of that. There's something about that coming onto that piece of paper that makes it so tangible, so real. It's just got to do with what we saw, years ago. We were taught to read out of books. We had to write in school and all these other things. So that's just part of what our brain has appreciated. As I said way early into the podcast, we think we have to carve some of this stuff in stone, this forever stuff. It doesn't. It's changing so rapidly that get it on a pen and paper, get it down to where you can modify it, and then once you're happy with it, put the finished product, make that your wallpaper on your desktop. Put it on a Post-it note. Have some cards printed that you pack around with you all the time. Most of us, I'm shocked at the number of people who don't have business cards anymore. They don't deal with face-to-face people. But that's kind of sad. I don't really want you to get out there in the world and experience some things, because if you live in this vacuum of all about, one particular subject matter, you're going to wither. You're going to deteriorate. But, the difference between a body of water that just has rivers flowing into it is going to be something that eventually becomes stagnant, because that water doesn't have anything. It just collects and collects and collects and collects. And it just sits there and becomes stagnant. An ocean or a sea or a lake or something like that has water flowing both into it and out of it will become fresh, because it's got new and improved information coming in, and it's got a release valve so that information can go out, so that it can be put to use, so that it's worthwhile. And that's what lets you throw your shoulders back. That's what lets you put a smile on your face. And when you look at that person in the mirror in the morning when you get up, you said, yesterday was a good day, and I've got all this to do today. And then at night, when you're brushing your teeth and fixing to head for the bed, you can look there and say, whew, I am tired. But it wasn't because I was busy. It was because I was actually doing something. Now, some days more productive than others, but every day you should be making a difference in yourself, and that'll help you make a difference in the lives of people around you too.
Absolutely. And I could talk to you, Alan, for another whole hour, and there's so many, but I have to end this.
I understand. We'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, because we could just go, and we didn't even stay to our, I have my questions kind of as a guide, but, it really goes based off of conversation and follow-up, and you just had so many things I wanted to follow up on. So I really, really enjoyed this interview, and I know that the listener definitely did too. So I want them to be able to find you. Where can they connect with you, Alan?
Sure. One of the easiest ways is to head over to 6monthjump.com, all spelled out, SIXmonthjump.com. And as well, I'm on the 48days.net community. You can really interact with me a lot there. And then a lot of the other different social media things, especially Twitter, at 6monthjump. And like I say, that's one of the problems of having a name that's shared with a celebrity. They have a lot of the copyrights and large companies keeping you from using your name and getting the websites, the domains, different things like that. So it's one way to overcome is to just constantly be moving forward. I could complain about not being able to promote Alan Jackson all that much, or I can just say, hey, we want to get you your jump going. So let's get into 6 Month Jump and make it happen.
And I love the 6 Month Jump. I think that's a great name, and it's that deadline. It gives people the goals to pursue, and it's a great community in 48days.net. That's where I met you and found you. But yeah, I definitely encourage you to check out Alan and reach out with him. Stay connected to him, especially if you are wanting to start your own business or trying to still learn it all or get some encouragement. He definitely has his years of experience, and his community is quality and people full of ambition and willing to help. So thank you again, Alan. It was really fun and an honor, and I'll definitely have to have you on the show again because we could just talk and talk and talk. So thank you.
The best thing you can do is the right thing. But also at that same time, the worst thing you can do is nothing.